So in a previous video, we discussed how, during a Fox News town hall event, Donald Trump strongly signaled to congressional Republicans that they should probably go ahead and impeach President Biden before the 2024 election. And we also discussed how Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, seemed to have received that signal loud and clear because now he's publicly indicating that he wants to open an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Now, I want to dive into the disparate reactions of congressional and Senate Republicans, as well as President Biden himself, to this news. But before I do, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell, and maybe check out my Patreon, because I'd really appreciate the support. Now, Donald Trump. We talked about the Fox News town hall event, but he's also been on Truth Central, his social media platform, Truth Social, and he's been troughing up a storm. So they impeach me over a perfect phone call. The phone call, of course, being to Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, in which he basically tried to blackmail Zelensky into investigating Joe Biden and Hunter Biden to try to hurt Joe Biden politically. He withheld congressionally approved foreign aid from Ukraine to try to get Zelensky to do it, and it collapsed thanks to a whistleblower. But that's a perfectly legitimate basis to impeach a president. He's still salty about it. And they don't impeach Biden for being the most corrupt president in the history of the United States? 3 question marks. The upshot here, of course, being that Donald Trump is publicly acknowledging that Joe Biden is the president of the United States. We're making progress, folks. But in the previous video, we discussed how the impeachment's probably not going to be successful. And certainly the trial in the Senate definitely won't be. But I want to get into the reaction of certain congressional Republicans because reactions to this have been quite mixed from a variety of surprising places. So this is Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, of course, is a member of the Freedom Caucus. He is a Trump loyalist. He definitely wants Joe Biden to be impeached. But listen to what he has to say on Kevin McCarthy signaling that he wants to open an impeachment inquiry into the president.
I want to go to another topic very quickly before we run out of time, Congressman Gaetz. Last night, Speaker McCarthy suggested publicly for the first time that the evidence is rising to the level for potential impeachment inquiry into the president. What would it take for us to get to that point?
I think we're there already, but I don't put much stock in Speaker McCarthy's words on that point because Speaker McCarthy, before his ascendance to the speakership, said we were going to open an impeachment inquiry into Mayorkas. And
Mayorkas, being Alexander Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security.
We haven't done that. And then weeks ago, he said that the IRS whistleblower information justified an impeachment inquiry into Merrick Garland. And then we didn't do that.
The IRS whistleblowers suggesting, they're not even making the accusation, but they are suggesting from the insinuations of their testimony that Attorney General Merrick Garland was not being honest when he said that the Hunter Biden tax investigation was still in the hands of a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney. Again, no accusations, no allegations have been made, but that's what Matt Gaetz is talking about.
And now he is largely analyzing evidence that we've had for some time about these bank payments from the Chinese through pass-throughs to the Biden family. And he's saying, well, maybe we should impeach Joe Biden.
So right there, the operative phrase being the Biden family. This is where Republicans do like this Kansas City shuffle. They do this like sleight of hand thing here where they're basically saying, listen, we have evidence that members of the Biden family have received payouts from foreign countries, which, number one, is not illegal necessarily, and they have no proof that these particular transactions were done illegally or corruptly, number one. Number two, know how he says the Biden family, but not Joe Biden. It's because they have literally zero evidence in terms of bank transactions, bank records, of anything connecting Joe Biden to China. But because Biden's family, members of the president's family, received payouts which may be perfectly legal, they want to go ahead and impeach the president. That's how deranged Matt Gaetz is. But again, what's hilarious is he's basically smack-talking Kevin McCarthy, which isn't new. I mean, he's been openly insubordinate and defiant of Kevin McCarthy since Kevin McCarthy was actually voted to be Speaker back in January. Matt Gaetz was one of the reasons why it took like 15 attempts for McCarthy to become Speaker of the House, which is hilarious. I want to draw your attention to another congressional Republican, Ken Buck, who is not quite as deranged as Matt Gaetz. He's a representative out of, I think it's Colorado's 4th District. He's having an interview with CNN's Dana Bash. Let's hear what he has to say about the so-called impeachment news.
Why do you believe that Speaker McCarthy in the last 24, 36 hours has begun to lean more into the notion of opening an impeachment inquiry?
This is impeachment theater. We right now are starting the appropriations process, and there is not a consensus on the Republican side about what the numbers should be. Kevin McCarthy promised when he was running for Speaker one set of numbers, and then he made an agreement with President Biden for the debt ceiling increase on another set of numbers. So right now, he has got to convince the public that he's credible and that Republicans have a duty to follow him. The party itself is not in agreement, and we're going to have some real trouble passing appropriations bills.
So basically, it sounds like Ken Buck is saying that Kevin McCarthy, it doesn't even seem to be doing this in Ken Buck's estimation because Donald Trump is bidding him to do so, but because McCarthy's trying to distract from the fact that Biden cleaned his clock in the most recent debt ceiling negotiation bill and that he's presiding over a caucus in disarray. It's a distraction.
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. It sounds like you're saying that the speaker is talking about impeachment to try to distract conservatives like you from spending bills that you don't like.
Well, not just me, but the public. What he's doing is he's saying there's a shiny object over here, and we're really going to focus on.
Like Republicans are children, and like conservative members of the public are children. You just distract them with like a set of keys.
That we just need to get all.
It's actually kind of low-key condescending. I mean, it's probably true. I would not question him in that regard, but that's kind of a bold gesture there that, again, comparing your Republican base to infants, easily distracted.
All these things done so that we can focus on the shiny object. Most of us are concerned about spending. It is an existential threat to this country, and so we want to move forward with the spending bills in a responsible way.
And as a reminder, if he's talking about spending, 1/4 of the nation's debt was added in 4 years under Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who swore that he would not only not add to the debt, but actually would eliminate the debt he'd inherited from Obama, Bush, et cetera, and so forth, all the way back to FDR.
Do you believe there is any reason why the House Republican majority should open an inquiry right now other than politics?
I don't think it's responsible for us to talk about impeachment. When you start raising the I word, it sends a message to the public and it sets expectations.
So there you go. All right. That's a radically different reason and sounds a bit more rational than the one offered by Matt Gaetz. But now let's switch chambers, and still the same party, still the Republican Party, but let's switch chambers. Here is the Dark Lord himself, the eldritch abomination of the Senate, Mitch McConnell. Let's hear what he has to say about the news about impeachment.
Do you see any merit in an impeachment inquiry into President Biden?
Well, I said 2 years ago, when we had not one but 2 impeachments, that once we go down this path, it incentivizes the other
Forever will it dominate your destiny. Sounds like Yoda there, once you go down the dark path.
side to do the same thing. Impeachment ought to be rare rather than common. And so I'm not surprised that having been treated the way they were, House Republicans, last Congress, begin to open up the possibility of doing it again. And I think this is not good for the country to have repeated impeachment problems.
So, I mean, again, at the end of the day, Mitch McConnell's partisan, right? Comparing the Trump impeachments to a hypothetical impeachment of President Biden is apples and oranges. There's no cosmic law which dictates because you impeach a president who is a Republican that you're obligated to impeach a president who is Democrat. And Mitch McConnell's saying, well, that's how Senate Republic, or that's how congressional Republicans look at it. You impeach one of ours, we're going to impeach one of yours. Blah, blah, blah. But that's not how it should work. Now, if they have credible, strong evidence, the way that we did, or the way the Democrats did against Trump, then that's one thing. But just a tit for tat, like an obligatory tit for tat, is ridiculous. So it's good that Mitch McConnell is distancing himself. Lastly, I want to play you how President Biden reacted to the news. This is funny. He was asked about it. I don't know where he was. I assume he was at the White House. But just note his cool, slick Uncle Joe, Dark Brandon reaction.
McCarthy says he may try an impeachment inquiry to get to the bottom of it.
Did you see that? Let's play it again. That was that slick, dark Brandon grin. He's not worried. Perhaps he should be, but again, there's no guarantee that an impeachment, if they attempt one, that it would make it out of the House. I think it's at least 50-50 odds that it just collapses, and it's guaranteed that it will not make it anywhere in the Senate.